Are you tired of feeling overwhelmed and stressed out by this constant pressure to perform and to be productive? Do you also have the feeling sometimes that you're putting in more hours, making longer hours, doing more, but at the same time you're still not getting anywhere? Well, guess what? You're not the only one. In today's video, I want to elaborate a bit on why I believe modern productivity hacks can actually work counterproductive. So I've been in this personal development journey for over a decade now. And during that time, I virtually did everything that every self-help guru would claim to be right for my productivity, for my health, etc. From 5 a.m. challenges to cold plunges to reading as many books as possible to hitting the gym, trying out different nutritional diets, etc. I went to conferences, I did workshops, I bought courses, I did it all. And so what I've come to learn is a couple of key takeaways that I'm trying to implement in my life today. Now, before I'm going to dive into the subject, let me be very specific. I don't claim to have the truth. None of what I'm saying right now is something that you should be doing. I'm only giving you some food for thought to reflect upon on what has worked and didn't work for me. So the first one is that I used to have this phase in which I was trying to implement as many rituals during a day as possible. Right? As the famous saying goes, if you can capture your morning, you capture the day. I think it was Tony Robbins who said it. Now, the problem with that is that many of us, we have this tendency to adopt all these self-help rituals like meditating for 10 minutes, doing a 30-minute workout, eat or not eating certain things, read 10 pages a day, etc. Now, although all of these things in and of themselves are amazing, they very often also deplete you of the energy that you need to do the things that you actually need to do to get ahead. It sounds a bit counterintuitive when I say deplete because in your mind, you were probably thinking that you're engaging in activities that give you energy. Well, maybe that is the case for you, but for me, it was different. So for me, for example, reading a book, especially when it comes to a personal development book, it requires my focus to understand the concepts that were provided to me. It requires just my stillness, my overall focus, and it was a form of being productive in and of itself. At least that's how it felt for me. The same with workouts, the same with meditating. These weren't really necessarily things that would calm me down. Sometimes they would, obviously, but they also would cost me a certain amount of energy because they were keeping me from doing the things that I really needed to do, which was the deep work. So, although productivity advice is amazing in and of itself and they do help to a certain degree, they can also really create this unhealthy focus on trying to optimize every minute of your day, taking you away from the things that you should actually focus on, the actual work that matters. The second problem that I have with the productivity hacks in the world we're living today, in which hustle culture is being promoted so much, is that this constant pressure to perform, to be productive, to put yourself out there in the world is very often the exact thing that is keeping us crippled, because we get trapped into this place of comparison. Right? We look left, we look right, and we realized that we're not doing enough to get ahead. And I feel that a part of this has to do with the self-help world trying to impose all these great ideas and concepts that supposedly are supposed to make our lives better. Now, the problem is that very often feelings such as guilt and shame and not feeling good enough are often the main cause why we're not doing what we're supposed to be doing, right? They cripple us, they paralyze us. Now, don't get me wrong. I know that there is enough people out there whose main driving force is the feeling of not being good enough. I think it was Alex Hormozy in particular who talked about this. He said, you need to have a vision, right? Like somewhere a dot on the horizon so you know where you're going, a drive, which in his case was the feeling of need being good enough to get you ahead, and emotional impulse to keep you on the right track. So being good enough and negative emotions definitely can be a catalyst to get you going, but at the same time, I don't really think it's a healthy way of relying on input, on motivation. The third problem that I see very often is that this relentless pursuit of productivity can very often lead us to neglect other important aspects of our lives. Right? It's very cool to say that you worked 18 hours a day, 7 days a week for many years straight, like Gary Vee used to preach. And don't get me wrong, I'm a huge fan of Gary Vee, mad respect for the guy. But it's about understanding yourself and understanding that you are probably not Gary Vee. You don't have his DNA. You don't have the set of circumstances that he had. I'm not talking about that he was lucky or anything. That is definitely not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that that is how he thrived, and it helped to lift all the other aspects of his life up as well because of the combination of his DNA circumstances, you know, let's say a little bit of luck maybe, and also how just things came together for him. But for most of us, if we would be working 18 hours a day just to achieve some materialistic goal, we would probably still be unfulfilled, unhappy, and to a degree probably also unhealthy, right? And so this relentless pursuit of productivity very often goes at the expense of hobbies, of a social life, of our mental health, which obviously is the tectonic plate, is the foundation on which everything else is built upon. So what I'm saying is that in and of itself, there's absolutely nothing wrong with trying to figure out how you can be productive. However, I think the key takeaway for me and my personal experiences is you have to figure out what works best for you. And a good example of that is if you look at the internet right now, what is really good for you in terms of nutrition and diets. I'm not sure how it is for you, but for me, I get overwhelmed with all these information and contradicting information very often from legitimate doctors and scientists who say that they did some large-scale studies, whether you should only eat meat-based diets or keto-based diets or, you know, try intermittent fasting, or like they have all these diets that are so contrary to each other that you don't know what to believe anymore. And so the key takeaway is to just experiment. You have to experiment and see what fits you, what works for you, because what may work for person A may not necessarily work for person B, right? And so trying to experiment for an extended amount of time, let's say a month, maximum 2 months, to see if things kind of like stick, if the amount of energy that it costs you to actually do it and to stick with it. And from there, try to minimalize the productivity hacks to a minimum. And again, by the end of the day, you only have so many hours in a day. This is something that I catch myself with as well. Focus and time are your biggest two assets during the day that you need to optimize. And so by adding all these external ways of trying to be productive and, you know, gaining knowledge and becoming smarter, all of that is amazing. But how much did you actually do when you're going to bed and when you put your head on a pillow, right? And so that is the key takeaway. Figure out what works for you. Stick to 2 or 3 things. You can rotate them. Maybe there is a period in your life in which you say, you know what, I haven't been reading that much, and I probably should be reading more often. But should I be doing everything? Should I work out during the day? Should I meditate 20 minutes? Should I read? Should I, do this and that? All of that probably can take up to 3 to 4 hours during a day that can be used elsewhere. Again, I'm not saying that meditating is bad or working out is bad. You should do all of these things, but you should do them interchangeably. You should probably figure out how you can do them in the most effective way, in a very time-efficient way, and try to figure out how you can do it in such a way that it's first and foremost sustainable and in a way that it doesn't take up too much time, so that you can focus on those things that actually do matter. Right? So that's it for today's video. If you liked what I just said and if you feel like you need to change some things up, please let me know how you've been going about this. Comment your thoughts on this. Also, don't forget to hit the notification bell because I'm just starting out on this YouTube channel and I do want to provide as much value as possible. And obviously, I need you guys to help this channel grow. And, in the meantime, hope everybody's having a great day. See you on the next one.